All right, folks, so in the last video that I put out, I got a lot of interest in how I converted my 12 valve Cummins to run on waste vegetable oil. So this video is all about that. We're gonna go through this entire fuel system. We're gonna look at how it works, and then we're gonna take a look at installing the system in another guy's truck. All together, you're talking maybe $500. When you talk about all the hoses, all of the valves, all the components, the fuel line, the tubing, all of that stuff, you can get it done for less than 500 bucks. And if you're driving on diesel, you're gonna pay for that real quick. Got 3 valves down here. We've got the first valve here is your tank selection valve. So I've got 2 tanks in this truck, a diesel tank and a vegetable oil tank, waste vegetable oil. This is your filter select valve, so you don't want to be running your veg oil through your diesel filter, so you can switch to go to either veg filter or diesel filter. And then this is your return line, so the injectors on these engines are cooled by fuel flowing around, and so that excess on a normal system just goes back into your diesel tank. But we don't want to pump vegetable oil back into our diesel tank, so we had to put a valve in there. And that valve basically just loops that hot vegetable oil back into the veg oil side of things. Going through the engine, you'll see a couple of things going on here that are not normal. So first of all, we'll go the water side. So vegetable oil, when it gets cold, gets thick, you have to heat it up to make it flow through all the pipes and go into your injector pump and all that stuff. And so what we've done is we've tapped in to our heater hose that goes back into the heating system inside the truck. We've tapped into that, put a little valve in here so we can kind of constrict the flow back to our heater, force it this way. Goes into a flat plate heat exchanger, which you see right here, comes out the bottom of that, goes into an aluminum coil that coils around our vegetable oil filter, which keeps that warm. And then from there, it goes under the truck into a countercurrent heat exchange hose that we made. And I'm going to show you how I put that together while we were working on Benji's truck. That's my spare crock right there in case I lose one. I got a spare. I found that floating down a creek. I'm gonna crawl under here and see if I can show you some of the... Ah, man. All right, so here's my water line coming from my heat exchange, my flat plate heat exchanger. Goes into the countercurrent heat hose here, flows that way, goes through the tank, and then this is the return, and this taps back into the heater system up there. All right, so we're gonna go through the fuel system real quick. As I said, this is basically a dual system, a dual fuel system. You've got a diesel side and you've got a veg oil side. So at any time, you know, you can run on diesel all the time if you want to and just not use the veg, you know, if you don't have any vegetable oil or whatever. So it's not like you're going all in on the veg oil and you're not running diesel anymore. And so we're going to cover diesel first. So obviously we have the stock diesel tank underneath the truck, which in Benji's truck, that's the one we made into the veg tank. But in this one, this is just the stock tank. So as I mentioned before, we've got 3 valves. They're all turned up right now, which means they're all on diesel. So right now, for this valve, there's 2 inputs and 1 output. So we've got 1 input coming from the veg tank, 1 input coming from the diesel tank, and then it comes out. Into the fuel pump, which both sides, both veg and diesel, share that fuel pump, so there's no need to have two different pumps. From there, so here's your inline. From there it goes out back to your second valve, which is this. This is your filter select valve. From there, there's one in and two outs in this one. So you've got your line coming from your pump into here. Right now, it's shooting to the diesel filter. And that's right there. And on the diesel side, from there, it just comes right up through here, right through here, and then right into your injector pump, just like a regular diesel system. All right, let's take a look at the veg oil side. So when we select veg oil, which is what it's on right now, it's pulling from the veg oil tank back here, shoots it down to the pump, back to your filter select valve. From here, it goes up right up into here, into your veg oil filter, which again is heated by this coil. From here, it goes down into the bottom of this flat plate heat exchanger, gets another shot of heat from the hot coolant from the engine, and then from here out here and through this line right into your injector pump. Now on the return side, as I mentioned before, here's all your injectors. Here's your little return line that cools those injectors. So you've got excess fuel flowing through that, goes around behind, under the truck. Back to this valve. Now right now, since it's on veg oil, we don't want to shoot that back to our diesel tank. So right now there's a hose that connects from this back into the line just before this valve here, and it just goes back into the hot fuel, back up to the filters and all that stuff. When it's on diesel, it just goes back to the diesel tank and dumps in. So we'll flip that back to diesel. So we're ready to start up and bring the engine up to temperature. Now, this seems like a really complicated system, and it kind of is, with all the plumbing and different connections and hoses going this way and that way and to and from. But really, it's a very simple system. There's just a lot of connections. It's very simple in the way it works.
It's pretty hot in my shop.
Yeah, look at that thing. That is beautiful. So that's your tubing?
Yeah.
Okay.
This should be from the Duo. Yeah, and it's tricky because I almost ordered the female, I think, and you needed the male, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice.
All right.
All right, so Benji found an old steel fuel tank out of a Suburban, which we were going to use as the veg oil tank, but I think what we're going to do is end up making that the diesel tank and using the poly tank that's in here as the veg oil tank. It's a bigger capacity tank, and it's poly, which the veg oil won't react with to create a polymer. So we're in the process of taking the bed off now, which is going to make things a whole lot easier. But we're going to have to fabricate a new top for the poly tank, which will allow us to put a heat coil through there, and then have a port for the fuel to come out. So, but anyway, we spent about 5 hours in town piecing all this stuff together. Set a new world record for the time spent in Home Depot by customers. Benji got in some calisthenics while we were in the store.
Hey.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's a mobility moment.
You're probably freaking them out, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's normal.
Anyway, we're going to start putting this thing together. Pretty snazzy.
That is. Can't believe that just comes out so sweet like that.
All right, so a little update here. We've got the connections. We've tapped into the water line here for the system that's going to heat the oil. That's what we've got right here. This is the line that goes into the heater heat exchange thing back there, and this is the return line. And so we've got this valve right here to kind of shut the water off just a little bit, which forces it this way, forces it through the heat exchanger over here, through the coil that goes around the the veg oil filter, and then back into our countercurrent heat hose, which we're going to build here in a minute, and through the coil in the tank. Then it comes back up and back into the truck's cooling system right there. Had to fab up this piece to hold the filter up, and then we've got the little aluminum coil, so you're gonna have hot water running around here, which is gonna keep your veg oil filter hot. And then we're gonna have a flat plate heat exchanger mounted right here, and then all that stuff's gonna be connected. We've tapped into the fuel lines just before the injector pump. Still have to hook that stuff up, but I'll show you when we start hooking up the valves and all that stuff, how it works. I don't want this feeling to go away. All right, so Benji's gone back to town to get the other parts that we need, but I wanted to show you how I'm bending these pipes. I don't have a pipe bender. You saw before the where we were doing the coiling of the pipe, but this is just aluminum tubing, very malleable, but I filled it up with sand and really tapped it in super tight so that the pipe can't collapse when you bend it, unless you like go around a sharp edge or something like that. As long as you go around a smooth edge and make a radius with it, it actually works pretty sweet. So this is the part that's going to go in the fuel tank. So this is the heater coil. Hot water in, loops around, heats up the oil in the tank, and then comes out. Alright guys, we're going to do a run through on this countercurrent heat exchange hose we've got going on here. So we've got a 1/2 inch outside diameter fuel line, aluminum fuel line, 3/4 just regular hose, heater hose, and a hose barb on the end of this thing. So I'm going to put that right in there like that. I actually need one of these things. Find the right size in a minute. Need one for that end. And one for this end. Okay. So to seal this up, all you gotta do is we're gonna put a compression fitting over this fuel line, and that's gonna seal everything up. So you've got your hot water coming in here, flowing this way. So you've got your hot water coming in here, going into the hose, flowing this way, flows out here, and then this goes to the tank or the coil that goes through the tank, and then that runs back up to your truck's regular cooling system. And then to seal these up, just a couple of compression fittings. So your cold veg oil is flowing this way, your hot fluid is flowing this way, You got a counter current heat exchange going on, and it works like a charm. These little compression adapters that you buy, they're not really made to use in the way that we're using them. This thing has got its neck down inside, and so it won't slip over the pipe, and so you have to tap them out just on the drill press. But you take a 1/2 inch and just drill down through there, kind of smooth it out a little bit, and they'll slip right over those pipes, and it works pretty slick. So this is day 3. First day was just like gathering parts. Yesterday we got just about everything put together. We probably could have wrapped it up yesterday, you know, but it would have been pushing it hard. But anyway, Benji is headed back into town, take his drive shaft, which that freaking U-joint was totaled. I can't believe he even made it here. What are we working on, Benji?
I think we were doing a fuel conversion, weren't we?
Well, what are we working on now?
Well, I don't know. It seems like I barely made it here on this drive line.
What's the immediate concern?
The immediate concern is this car wasn't going to make it much longer with that.
That, I don't know how, like, that's impressive. I've never seen a U-joint that bad.
Do you remember how the conversation started about this yesterday? Hey, I got a little vibration when I let off the gas and when I accelerate. Yeah, we should maybe take a look at, maybe it's the tires are worn, or
that's impressive.
That might be been it.
It's not supposed to look like that. All right, so I think we just got everything hooked up. Hopefully, I think it's all right. But we had to pull start the truck because priming that stuff by hand would take like 3 hours of pumping. And so we just bump started it. It's running on diesel right now. We haven't put it on veg. Uh-oh. And it just quit for some reason. Just leave it. It's probably just got air in the line. So we did get Benji's truck running good. There was just a bunch of air in the lines, and so when you first start those things up, they just sound like hell. I mean, they're not really hitting on all cylinders. They don't want to idle, and so you just gotta kind of. What we did was just fire it up and let it idle a little bit until it would run, and then we just drove it down the road for a couple miles and back. Once we got back, it was running like a top. It's been a long time since I did my truck, and so I can't remember all the research that I did, but I want to say I looked on burnveg.com a lot, and there was a guy on there named Sun Wizard. I'm thinking he's the one that developed this, but anyway, shout out to that guy, because it's a good system, and it runs like a charm. I've never had any problem at all, except for I have blown a couple of fuel lines. I blew a veg oil line once on a road trip and didn't know it, and I dumped about 50 gallons of vegetable oil between here and Coeur d'Alene, which is about 2 hours from here. So kept the dust down on that one. All right, so you guys are probably eyeballing my truck a little bit. I built this thing probably 3 years ago or so. Before I had this, I had a 91 single cab, long wheelbase, got the 12 valve Cummins, all that stuff. And a lot of this truck is that truck. Obviously this is not a single cab, but with Liz and the 2 boys, a single cab just wasn't cutting it. And I wanted a crew cab, And so I went and found a 1980 Power Wagon, crew cab Power Wagon. Went and bought that thing. I think I gave $4,000 for it. Brought it back to the house, took both trucks and stripped them completely down to the frames. And basically the only thing that's on this truck that's from that 80 is the cab and the frame. I didn't know that I was going to build it that way when I got this truck. I was actually going to use the body off of the 80, but I didn't do a very good job of really checking that truck out, and the body was absolute crap. I mean, it was all beat up, bondoed up, rusted out. And so I took the body. I mean, it worked out. You're not going to find another truck like this anywhere, because they didn't make this body style, as far as I know, in a crew cab. And so it's got the 91 body, everything except the cab and the back doors, but all the body lines matched up. What really surprised me was the engine, the drivetrain, transmission, and everything out of my 91 fit right into the 80 frame. And this had a 318 in it when I got it. Pulled that out. I think it was a 318. Anyway, pulled that out. The Cummins fit right in there. Same motor mount, same everything. All I had to do was bolt it up. I did have to move the transmission mount back and get a new drive shaft built for it. But other than that, man, this I like this truck. I do have to, if you notice, my lift on the rear is a little bit lower, or my front's sitting a little higher. I think I got lift springs, and I ordered 4-inch, but I think they gave me 6-inch. And so I think if I take a couple, maybe just 1 or 2 leaves out of that pack, it should drop it down. Hopefully I won't have to get new springs. But anyway, there's still some stuff that I need to do to this thing. I mean, got to put my door panels in there and all that stuff. But this bed, so it was a long wheelbase, and obviously this is a short box. So this bed, I had to cut a 16-inch section out of it. You can see where I welded it together right here. But here you can't see anything. I mean, all that's where that seam is, running right down through there. But the only way you can tell is a little bit of different pattern in the bed liner here. But anyway, that's what we've been doing the last couple days. I've got a bow class starting here in 2 days. So that project, doing Benji's truck, just kind of wore me out a little bit. That was a couple of really long days. So I'm just kind of chilling and recuperating a little bit. Had to take a break on the house. I mean, the porch is still a disaster. But we got the tar paper up. We're going to start. Here's all our, well, that's part of them. Cedar shakes. We got a whole trailer full of those things. That's going to go all on the front here. It's going to go all around the house. And our kitchen is ripped apart. So I'll show you guys that later. But anyway, peace out. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Ain't that right, Lily? Yes. Lily. Lily.